Priestap on Capitol Hill today. More revealed about the role of FBI agent Peter Strzok and his part in the Clinton email cover-up and spying on the Trump campaign. Fox News Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge with our report.
The FBI's espionage chief, Bill Priestap, with direct knowledge of the Clinton email and Russia investigations, testified for the first time behind closed doors for House investigators.
How's it going in there?
It's like going to the dentist.
Priestap's former number 2 FBI agent Peter Strzok was a central player in the Clinton email probe and later removed from the Russia case for anti-Trump bias. Based on testimony and documents, one Republican said Strzok appeared to be running the show.
Not only the text messages that we have, but the emails that have been produced to the Oversight and Judiciary Committees. And so while technically that may have been a Bill Priestap call, I think it was more Peter Strzok driven.
One committee Democrat said Priestap's testimony was straightforward, direct, adding he intervened once the extramarital affair between Strzok and FBI lawyer Lisa Page was known.
He was a supervisor, and so I think that he took the appropriate actions once he found out about the nature of the relationship.
Republicans want more information from Priestap about the alleged confidential human source that contacted Trump campaign aides. Priestap rarely traveled overseas, and lawmakers pressed him on a May 2016 trip to London and whether it was connected to the Russia probe that Strzok launched 2 months later.
Those would be confidential, and I can't really speak to those today.
Priestap, along with his former boss, FBI Director James Comey, and others, are the subject of the long-awaited Inspector General's report into the FBI's handling of the Clinton emails. With congressional committees in a holding pattern, waiting for the report to drop any day, on Twitter the president questioned, quote, "What is taking so long on crooked Hillary and slippery James Comey?" adding, quote, "Hope report is not being changed and made weaker." Late today, the closed-door testimony concluded after about 6.5 hours, with one lawmaker describing Bill Priestap's testimony as extremely cooperative, adding that based on the latest information, so intelligence, testimony, and other records, it now appears that FBI agent Peter Strzok played a more significant role than previously known in the Clinton email and Russia investigations, a role that goes well beyond the text messages and what they indicate, Lou.
Catherine, thank you very much. Catherine Herridge reporting. Our first guest tonight, furious over the counterintelligence powers used against an opposition party's presidential campaign. Joining us tonight is Congressman Ron DeSantis. Congressman DeSantis is a member of a number of important committees, including Oversight and Government Reform, Foreign Affairs, and the Judiciary Committee. He's also the leading Republican candidate for governor of the great state of Florida. Congressman, good to have you with us. Let's turn to what we learned today from Priestap, and to the degree that you can share that, and the committees that were in a closed-door hearing to hear his testimony. Strzok is now, has been from the very beginning, it seems, at the epicenter of this, at the center absolutely of the scandal at the FBI and the Justice Department. Now it looks like he played an even larger role than anyone imagined.
I'll tell you, Lou, there's been few people that have done so much damage to the reputation of the FBI than this guy, Peter Strzok. Now, we've been following him for a long time. Remember, He was the one that bent over backwards to try to help Hillary. He was editing Comey's statement in ways that lessened her culpability about foreign interception of her emails. He's the one that changed the language from gross negligence to extremely careless to try to get it out of the statute. And then he turns around after Hillary's exonerated and opens up a counterintelligence investigation on the Trump campaign based off the supposed conversation between Papadopoulos and Alexander Downer, which we now know, Lou, Downer did not report any emails. He just said that someone had said that there's dirt on Russia. So there wasn't even an email basis. So as thin as read as possible. And then, of course, the text messages that evince his anti-Trump bias. He wanted Hillary to be president, and he hated Donald Trump with a passion. So I think this really just underscores the problems that you and I have been talking about with this investigation, these dual investigations for a long, long time.
Do you have some insight, because you have been among those who've been able to follow this throughout? It's been an extraordinary journey. You know more because of what you've been able to read, to hear in closed-door sessions. Why there was such a visceral hatred of candidate Trump. And what was the great threat to these agents and to the Department of Justice? Was it just sheer fear of being found out what they had done to cover up for Hillary Clinton? Your thoughts about their motivation and the reasons that they went to such extraordinary, un-American lengths to subvert a president?
Well, look, I think that Hillary was the consummate insider swamp candidate. And the people who are part of the permanent political class here, obviously people who are elected, but also high bureaucratic officials, I think they're much more comfortable with Hillary. Donald Trump is coming after this. I mean, he's like a sledgehammer to the D.C. swamp. He's an outsider from the inside the Beltway mentality. And I think that they just viewed him as somebody that was going to upend the apple cart, and they didn't want that. And so maybe some of it's ideological, but I think it's much more that just Trump was an outsider that was really going to upend Washington, and I don't think they wanted that.
Yeah, in the disruptor against the establishment, the deep state, and I do think ideology played some role here, if I can disagree with you, at least at the margin in one area. Let's turn to that president who is today tweeting about, again, another delay from the Inspector General in that report being disseminated. He tweeted this: "What is taking," if we can put that up, "what is taking so long with the Inspector General's report on crooked Hillary and slippery James Comey? Hope the report is not being changed and made weaker." Your reaction?
Well, that's I think the fear is that the report gets presented to the Justice Department, who then has a period to review it, potentially suggest edits, redactions. And as we've seen, Lou, there's been a big problem with how Rosenstein and some of the folks at the FBI have handled Congress's request for documents when they redact a lot of things that have nothing to do with law enforcement sensitivity or national security. They redacted the fact that Andrew McCabe, they spent $700 on some table with taxpayer money for his office. So they're doing redactions more to protect the bureaucracy from accountability than they are to protect national security or law enforcement sensitivity. So if that is going on with this report, if they're trying to redact or change it to lessen the truth about how some of these high officials like Comey, McCabe, and Strzok behaved, that's a big, big problem. If it's just a matter of being thorough, look, I wanted it yesterday, I wanted it 3 months ago, but if we get a thorough report tomorrow or Monday and it actually leads to referrals on Comey, on these people who colored outside the lines, then I'm going to be fine with that. So we're just going to have to wait and see.
If you guys